No proof, don't need a virgin grave, but I need someone. I need some. All right. Good morning. Good morning. It is February 11th. I hope everyone is feeling well. It is Wednesday and it's Jobs Wednesday. It's not Jobs Friday. It's Jobs Wednesday. That's what happens when the government shuts down. Anyway, I don't think anyone has too much focus on it. The street expectations is that we're going to get a rate cut in June. And, who even knows what the revisions are, what the numbers are cooked, this and that. So let's just focus on where we are and what's going on at this point. It's still not the easiest tape, where you have mega cap tech or the Mag 7 is just not the Mag 7 anymore. You have mid caps making highs, you have industrials making highs, you have the small caps acting well, but within the small caps, the drone names aren't doing great. Some of the data centers are still rebuilding. The nuclear names are rebuilding. Semis have no power. So it's like, you have to be almost a surgeon to make money, kind of like what we did with software. You had to buy it the day that it capitulated down on a Thursday, and then all of a sudden you could, be in there for 3 days and that might be it. So there's been a lot of like tactical, surgical ways to make money, unless you really been, you moved your feet and you went to buying the industrials or, buying XOM and Chevron. And, I know we played the XLE, but either which way, it's been a little tricky out there. I'm not going to make like they're giving money away on trees, especially last week. Last week, it looked like, market was really about to like take more of a corrective phase lower. And then, Friday just boom, repaired it fast. But then you had some time to switch some gears Monday, take some trades Tuesday. Now the question is, with jobs Wednesday, what's going to happen here? Are we going to hold above 691.66 the same way we held above 688? Go sideways, and then is the S&P going to want to make new highs the way we have Dow Jones 50,000? I'll tell you, look at Dow Jones 50,000. Yesterday during the recap, I did this whole little exercise with everybody on what's it called, on like, looking at like the weekly charts of the S&P, the monthly charts of the S&P, of Brazil, of emerging markets, of China, of this and that. And really the US markets have had some run. Like really, if you don't trade to get paid in January and February, like you put your money in every single month, and long term you're going to win. And sometimes obviously use your asset allocation chart if you have a good guy working for you, or you're good. You put some slices in some countries that are playing catch up, like Brazil just had catch up. China's been doing better the last 2 years. Australia looks like it's ready to friggin' blow its doors off to the upside. But anyway, if you trade for a living, this is what we got to do. Got to figure out, are we going to hold up here and continue to the upside? IWM is doing just fine. A little bit of a red dog reversal got extended. We'll see if this 8-day holds here. Mid caps are still, look at those things, just chugging along. Anyway, so with that being said, we got to find things to do that are responsible, right? And see how that goes. What's up, Phil? Good morning, GP. Yeah, VRT. I posted VRT on Monday. A lot of my guys were buying some options. It broke out really nice above this spot here, and that's a strong stock. Whereas it this morning, VRT is up 27. Congratulations. Look at this accumulation sideways. I know Todd from the Alpha team is all over this. I know he's probably long through the yin yang. And if you're in this, you're getting paid. That's a nice, this has been a nice chart. Look at this, up to the boom, sideways, hanging out here. You guys are getting paid. Congratulations if that's you. Chips and metals are up. That's cool. Well, so it's like names like this. Listen, just real quick through Mag 7. Like I got Google, very, very difficult. They did a debt offering, whatever they did yesterday, gap down, kind of retrace, and it's just been like grinding lower. If you're in Google, you can be in long versus 314. It's up 50 cents this morning. Not horrible, but, not very exciting. Amazon is at the lowest valuation it's ever been at, and they can't even get in the gap for more than $1. Like, look at this failure here each time. So I've told the Alpha team guys, either you're going to be long versus 200, and this is your stop. So you could be long versus 200, and then maybe it fills the gap, which it hasn't done for 2 days. That's the only way you could do it. Or you're an investor and you've been an investor for a while. Like I said before, if you wanted to be a surgeon and you played software, this was your huge move. Yay! I actually made 100% on my options, but yeah, you had to buy in the belly of the beast, add when it didn't make a new low, trim a little bit, and then get out of it. And those type of trades happen. Those type of trades happen. They do pay the bills at times. Yeah, Dell is very solid. So someone said go over Dell. Dell had a nice move yesterday, very solid. But still it's down from 168. Look at this rebuild that it had to do down here. And it's finally perking up a little bit. We actually made some money on this as a power play, which was nice. Listen, I have this product called Power Plays where I'll tell you what to do and how to do it. And it's been hard to find power plays because, everything is like a day trade or a surgical trade. And anyway, with that, and then sometimes everything looks like it's going to fall apart and then it doesn't. But anyway, this looks better. Looks like it's just taking back the moving averages, can move higher. What's Dell doing this morning? Up 37 cents, but that looks pretty good. Assuming you were long IWM with RDR guy, and Rod's asking me, so this IWM, okay, so if you were long IWM, just say, that's why you use a tier system. Sometimes a red dog reversal can get you out. Sometimes it can get you short, or sometimes it could just get you smaller based on where it is in the chart. So if, I would assume a lot of people get out of the IWM here on the day it looked like it was going to break this symmetrical triangle to the downside. So if you just say you bought 1,000 IWM here, and then on Monday, okay, it opened down, you added 500. Okay, so now you're at 1,500 using a tier system. Then it gets above, okay, the high from Friday, and you had another 500. Now you're at 2,000. Pushes higher. You sell 500. Now you're down back at 1,500 IWM because you just held it from here. You added. Now you're at 1,500. Then yesterday it pushes above. You get back to 1,000 because what did it do? It pushed above, didn't stay above. Okay, so now on yesterday's move, maybe you went from 1,000 to 1,500 to 2,000, back to 1,500, back to 1,000, and now you're sitting in 1,000 here saying, hey, maybe it's going to pull back to the 8-day, and you could add back and you're managing your position. That's tier management. Or you could have done it with anything. Or you could have said, hey, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, just back to 1,000, and then, sell 500, and now you're holding 500. I'd rather see you hold 500 as a trailer because sometimes these things change than, potentially giving back more. And then you have 500 from here, but you've already booked 3/4 of the trade. Some guys will say, hey, I'm going to get short here because it just had this big move. But again, it's not showing you a reason to be short when you're above all the moving averages and you're just a little extended. So that's a good question. That's a tactical question. I can do tactical lessons for days. I've been doing this for 28 plus years, but that's how kind of use your tier system. Yeah, someone said about Tesla. Tesla, I'm the smallest. This is kind of like my day counter rule. Tesla gave you a move off the 200-day. You could have bought the 200-day, right? If you sold here or sold when it broke 414, you had the luxury of buying the 200-day. Had a little power when the market did, and then you had a 4-day move. So I did buy it. I've been in Tesla since that Friday. Today's what? Today's Wednesday. So that's a 4-day trade. And I've been buying it, massaging it. I haven't been too big, so it's been kind of easy. So Tesla's down a little bit. So, into this little down move, $1.60, maybe I'll buy more. This is 423. What's this low here? This low is 417. Maybe it goes sideways. It was approaching resistance, so I got smaller. You have to be careful where things are at. Even there's a Palantir, which used to be a darling, has been a better short than a long. Some people how did this happen? Look at Palantir. Look at this candle right here. I remember when it had a bull flag, and this candle right here is what I got most of my guys out. I'm like, it looked good, looked like it was ready to go, but guess what? The trade changed right here to 191. Then you had you move lower. Then it looked decent. This engulfing bar, bearish engulfing bar, made it look bearish again. And then this showed power below the 8-day the entire time, gapped up into numbers, rejected where broke down from. Some people look at this head and shoulders pattern. Then you had a broken backs to the 8-day, and now it's in again. So different than when it was strong above the 8-day, above the 21-day, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, Someone said, what do I think about Nvidia? Nvidia, uh, I don't know. All I know is this candle got me back long. I added, which was nice on Monday. We talked about that at the 6:30 club, and then I bought some options for this Friday, which doesn't look like it's going to work, and for next Friday, the 195s, and I'm in small shares, but it's really not that exciting. It's up 95 cents. You just can't overtrade it. The low here is what from yesterday? The low is 188, and this high here is 187. So I'd say if this is going to be special and actually have some momentum and have some power, it should hold 187. If it doesn't, then you have the line in the sand is where the moving averages are. So if this wants to show any commitment to that move and not just be a range trade, holding 187 is great. Holding this is fair. Above this, though, you get some power, but you need some real news and some real stuff for that. Yes, the XLE has been great. XLE, look at that trend. Look at this active sequence. I went over this so many times in December, this cup and handle pattern that was under accumulation, and this measured move goes to 75. So if you feel like you missed it, you didn't miss it. It's only February 11th. You still have a lot of time left. This was 2014, 12 years ago. We were in the same spots. That's a lot of accumulation, a lot of institutional ownership. It's our job, though, as traders. Our job, if you get paid in January and February, this was your spot, and then now is your spot, and you just got paid. Now, if you want to let it sit, you let it sit. And there was a lot of nice trades in there. We went over Chevron in there. Look at that. Broke the downtrend. So a lot of these energy names traded with patterns also. Someone asked me what about, I did put on Schlumberger as a power play. It hasn't gone yet. This Schlumberger looks pretty good. I feel like this Schlumberger is going to get to 60-ish or so. So, big gap up, that pro gap trade that we talk about that I teach in my evergreen. You could some are long for first there. Maybe you want to be long versus 47. And then PS, it takes that out. Did Netflix wake up? A little bit. Netflix is down a lot off the highs. It tried to wake up yesterday. They're still selling some strength. It finally got above the 8-day. It's been below the 8-day ever since like 108. So you could have saved yourself a lot of money getting out of the way of Netflix below the 8-day or here. Anyway, it's hard to tell what's going to go on here at Netflix. I feel like if the deal got broken up, you would get, probably $15 back just like that. And I also think if it doesn't, from here, you're probably fine. It's just there's not a lot of sexy power in Netflix right now. It's just you got to say, hey, it's down 38, 40% from the highs. If you're an investor and you want to have some exposure, you do it. If you're a trader, it's just like most of these things right now. Not great. What do I think of Apple? Apple, I like. Apple, we made a lot of money. I bought Apple the same day I bought Tesla. Actually, I bought Apple post earnings and I made a lot of money. Not a lot of money, but a decent amount of money. This day, you could have added. Now it's trying to hold the 8-day. If Apple could hold this 271, which it seems like, chances are, maybe it makes another move above 280, 288. But holding this 271 will keep that in place, sooner than later. What do I think about silver? I like silver. Silver had had its huge buy here, additional setup there. We did catch a really good short. I bought a lot of ZSL, like $1.60, sold it all the way up to 240. And now some are trying to buy it versus 72-ish area. This is 76. Silver is above that. It would have been nice if this happened yesterday, but it didn't. Some guys are definitely longer from the Alpha team, and it has some room. From 109 down, it's trying to rebuild. Gold is acting better. Gold needs to hold this 460 area. Gold's starting to lead a little bit better than silver right now. What's gold doing today? You would think it would be up today with silver doing that. Yeah, it's up 760. Wow. It's a nice move for gold and silver overnight, right? Vert. So again, there's things going on and there's things happening. It's just you got to really, really do your best and find them. And it's very easy to get caught up, in old trades that worked, years ago. Like even Robinhood, I'm losing money overnight. It's those little decisions. It's kind of funny, right? So Robinhood obviously was 153. So Robinhood's down a lot off the highs. So someone's like, hey, Red Dog, let's just take a little Robinhood, $95 calls for next Friday. They're $2. I'm like, okay. You take a portion of them, even if you just take 30, $6,000, and all of a sudden doesn't work. You're like, oh, I just lost $6,000 by just putting on options for earnings just because it came down. Anyway, for Robinhood, I think it'll be kind of interesting. Does and it wasn't the best of earnings, but it wasn't trading at 150, 139, 120. And by the way, this gives you lots of ways to get the hell out of the way. So it's trading down here above the prior low. So maybe, puts a low in the first 5-15 minutes and you could buy it versus that low. So I'm going to be watching Robinhood to see if, because remember, Netflix did that. Even Amazon's been horrendous, but Amazon put a low in. It was just slow. And then you could have bought versus that low. And then it trickled up the rest of the day. So we'll see. You think it's MU? MU's trying to hold this 363 area. What's MU doing this morning? It's up 10. All right. 383. What's the 8-day? 393. So MU's got some room to here. If you bought it into some support, I would, this still it's in rebuild mode. It's not in strong momentum shorts trap mode. It's, hey, where are we going to hold? Are we going to hold higher and continue? So, so if you're an MU, I would trim some. AMD, I haven't really even looked at. Gave you look how that had. AMD had to go into this gap and then get everyone out and trap everybody. And now it's at this gap. Look at all these gaps. It's tricky stuff. I'll tell you, tricky stuff. Sometimes the market's conducive and sometimes it's easy. Sometimes you have this pocket of awesome strength, and sometimes it's just like, wow, I got to be very careful because it's predatory at different areas. What's AMD doing this morning? Somebody said it. Micron's up that. AMD it's up 20 whole cents. Just kind of funny though, right? Look at this. Like AMD had to push in the gap, get anybody out trading versus the gap. And if anyone got short, which you probably shouldn't have got short after 3 down days, they got squeezed, traded above a prior high. So at least these 2 days made some sense, right? Traded above a prior high, trapped all these shorts, got people long, and then would have made some sense getting out a little bit into this gap. And now it's a 213 and 3-day trades. That's what we have here. 3-day trades. What else? I'm taking it slow. Someone asked me about this NN. NN is more of like it's a concept play. It's not a day trader. It's a Spectrum satellite space deal. Supposedly they're going to be on a docket, maybe for March. And if that happens, that means, guys are saying it could break above this 18 and change and get to like 22 to 25. I bought some $20 calls for June in case that happens. Nvidia led tomorrow. Yeah. What else are people asking me about lately? Not really Meta. Meta's hard, Meta's also choppy as hell, right? Meta had good earnings. Looked like it was going to be back after a move from 795 to 600, gapped up and trickled lower. Just again, this is, an interesting thing that I was reading about today also, or the last few days, is that all these very, very liquid mega cap tech stocks, they're all sources of funds now because there's like 6 or 7 deals that have to come public that these institutions need to have a lot of money for. So they're selling, what's kind of liquid and where they could raise some capital. So that's why there are sources of funds, and they're not in play because all these new deals have to come out because these private investors have been trapped for 7 rounds over the last decade, and they got to unfortunately shove them down the throat of the public at some crazy valuations that probably aren't going to work. But anyway, we'll get to that another time. ASTS is up today. I think I read that ASTS is going to be in the MCSI exchange, so it's up. Red Dog reversal, sell here, kind of a Red Dog reversal, buy here. It's just in a rebuild mode. It's not like when it was trending. It needs time. A lot of these things need time. When things need time, you better be careful. Just gotta push, take a step back and don't overtrade and just respect the money. Stack some days. Say that 3 times to yourself. Respect the money, stack some days. Respect the money, stack some days. If you find yourself up at 950, a few $1,000s, maybe that muscle memory won't be in that trade anymore. Don't push it anymore. You want the UUU daily? You before I go? It's hanging around. Small double top here, pushed through and then failed. Trying to rebuild in here. What's it doing this morning? It's up 80 cents. I would say if I was long this thing, you would think it would hold this spot, and then at some point maybe wants to take out this spot in order to get a little bit better. ASTS has Blue Origin news. All right, Ken. By the way, that's all right. That's good to hear. I guess they're doing something with Blue Origin, so maybe that helps. All right, listen, guys. It's Wednesday. The jobs report is today. We'll see. I think if it's in line or a little light, or in line or a little better, I feel like it's not going to affect the market. Market kind of is in this trend-ish area. If it's a disaster report, maybe that would bring things lower. The market and the street thinks that rates are going to be cut in June. So a lot of time between now and June. Plus, how do you believe the results anymore? Everything is just like a revision of a revision of a revision. So anyway, with that being said, good luck today. It's Wednesday. Just if you've been in a little rut and you're not seeing it, and you took your risk down last week and you're day trading, that's cool too. Net some money, get some clarity, start putting some swings back on, and then see some trends. Anyway, I appreciate you for tuning in. I'll see you guys later. You guys want to hear a little bit of this? As long as they play till dawn, nothing's but blues and Elvis and somebody song. But that music treats you nice. Some hungry red seem to try tonight, as long as the mood is right. So Ken is pointing out the news translated from Japanese. ASTS announced that it successfully deployed the Bluebird 6 satellite into orbit. The company is calling largest commercial communications. All right. So maybe AST holds. It's kind of broken right now, so got to be a little careful there. By the way, that's what I do. Once I leave the 630 club, I mark up about 30, 40 charts. I post them in the Alpha team, play music, listen, get my mind right, get things together. I manage some of my positions, think about the positions that I'm going to be putting on or might put on, depending on what the market does in the first hour. I don't listen to CNBC. I don't listen to Frurus or whatever the hell you guys call them. I've already looked at the macro. I've looked at the charts. I know what to do, when to do it, how to do it, if this, then that. And I would recommend that's what you do. Take some things from different people that you respect, understand why they're looking at them, what potentially could happen, make it your own, and then execute on your own. Don't depend on anyone else.